Hello everyone, and I hope that you're having a really good day and a really good life. It would be nice. And some days aren't so good, and then we have to transform and learn and grow and change. And that I was thinking about change. I was thinking about change, and I've also been thinking about tradition. And there are many traditions that we've all been given. And the interesting thing about human traditions is that they come from other human beings. So there are many traditions that we have that, there's a story that I remember that someone told me about, this tradition of cutting off the ends of the ham, and that it's a special tradition in the family, and that for this holiday that happens in the particular family, that you always cut off the ends of the ham, and then years and years and years and years, and probably a couple generations later, one of the children says, how come we cut off the ends of the ham, and they're like, I don't really know. And the great grandmother's like, oh, well, the pan was too small to fit the ham. So we had to cut off the ends, right? So it's a tradition from necessity. But not all traditions are like that. And many traditions, like that tradition is actually kind of unnecessary. And so we also get to, and then of course, I'm sure that they were able to cook whatever ham, that they wanted to cook. And I'm sure it was much more moist and delicious. But some people have a tradition of not having any ham. There are many traditions and cultures in the world where you don't have ham, that would be an insult to the tradition or to the, and so you would never ever do that. Right. And then there are other traditions, and where you wouldn't eat meat, like that wouldn't be an option, and that would be a tradition that you would keep and that you would hold. And so, I mean, it really wasn't my intention to enter the conversation with food, but it's just really interesting to think about, these traditions that we have, and especially around our really cherished opinions. Like we have these really cherished opinions and ideas about how things should be, and oftentimes they are given to us from people we really cherish and really love, and there are really ancient traditions that we want to honor and acknowledge and bless and respect. But if they're human traditions, they were also given to us by human beings. And human beings often have something called agendas. Not all human beings. I've yet to meet a human being without one, but I'm really looking forward to meeting some human beings without them. And I think we have maybe periods of time where we don't have agendas. There's probably days where we don't have an agenda or thoughts about what we should and shouldn't be doing. Uh, I think the issue comes when we decide and make choices about what other people should and shouldn't be doing. And I'm thinking a lot about, what's happening now with women in Afghanistan, and some of the things that are happening there. And as I was thinking about traditions, I was thinking about choices, and that it seems to me as though there's some really long held beliefs about how things should and shouldn't be, um, for that are held by one group of people that are about another group of people. And what we want to do, and what I feel we want to avoid, is making choices for anybody else, right? Because I personally do not know what's best, right, for someone else. What we can do is we can give options and create solutions. But I think about so many traditions, and I think about how we're always evolving and transforming, because one of the things that we're also doing, aside from creating these traditions all of the time, and aside from being highly creative, and aside from wanting to preserve the traditions that are good and true and lasting, um, we need to be able to differentiate which choices are best for me and which choices are not for me to make, right? So it kind of reminds me of how I think about the tradition of the traditions of honor and respect, and who gets the honor and respect, right? So who is the most respectable person? Well, if there's a most respectable person, then there isn't equity. We're not experiencing equity. We're not experiencing everyone being treated and held with exactly the same choices. So what we want is we want to be able to. There's this quote from Albert Einstein, and I don't really want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like, which is at first the idea, if at first the idea is not absurd, then there's no hope for it. You know, if at first the idea is not absurd, then there's no hope for it. And by Albert Einstein. But I also think about, you know, that everything starts out as an idea. You know, and somebody has this idea and they think that it's a good idea, and then they want to spread that idea, and it's is it a contagion that's going to be a blessing? And you know, as we are sorting through our traditions, what are the things that need to be preserved? What are the things that, you know, there are some cultures and some languages where there's no binary, where the language is completely non-binary, where there's no male or female pronouns, and what a powerful thing that is, right? So, you know, there are traditions in those languages, and that would be a tradition for me, at least, that I would feel would be worth preserving. And then there are traditions where choices are not respected, and everyone doesn't have their own choice, and that some people are held at a different level of respect than other people are, and for their choices. And so it reminds me of this story that I heard Angelus Arian, who is my beloved mentor and teacher. And I'm an honor to be her protege. But there's a story that she told that about King Arthur and the Round Table. And it was just such an amazing story where they were looking for a forest, and they found this forest, and there was the king of the forest, and he wanted, you know, he had this question that he asked King Arthur in order for King Arthur to win the forest and be able to have his round table meet there. And he said, you know, what does woman want? What does woman want? And you know, really, the story boils down to, after much ado, the story really boils down to, you know, them looking off wistfully. You know, male, female, or non-binary. Everyone wants to be respected. You know, male, female, or non-binary. Everyone wants to have sweet nothings whispered in their ear. You know, male, female, or non-binary. Everyone wants to have a sense of belonging and home. And choice. But the real answer, the final answer, is what Sir Gawain finds after doing a survey of all the ladies in the land. And there's one lady, and she has this one answer, and it's the right answer. And the right answer is a choice. So everyone wants a choice. There's no one who wants really in their heart of hearts for someone else to make their choices for them about what they do, what they wear, how they act, what they can and cannot do, what they can, you know, can and cannot experience or express. And I really believe that everyone really does want a choice, and that everyone wants those choices to be their own. And so, you know, and I ask myself, you know, and I think it's really important that we ask ourselves, you know, do we respect the choices of others, you know, or do I think my choices are the right choices and no one else's choices are the right choices? Or do I think that everyone really knows what's best for themselves and all things are open to negotiation, right? For the good of all. For the good of all. So, what is for the good of all is for the good of the individual and the choices that that individual decides to make. But some traditions are really needing to transform and to change, and change is one of the only constants, you know. So we're always changing, we're always transforming as human beings, and the planet. I mean, if you look at water, you know, it's, and we're 80% or 70%, I don't know the exact facts on it, but we're made of a lot of fucking water. We're made of tons and tons of water, right? So we're made of all this water, but water is the most malleable and constantly changing and transforming, and right, so it's strong and it's also subtle, and then it's so powerful it can take down, it changes stone, right? And so we are made of that stuff that is transforming and constantly changing. So we're constantly always evolving, and I'm hoping we're going to start evolving and not de-evolving. But what we need is we need to recognize that there's always that need for change, and that all of the voices are needed in order to negotiate. So we need to make sure that we have the collaboration of every person involved, in order to collaborate and to make a choice that's truly for the good of all. All voices have to be heard if it's going to be for the good of all. And so I always wonder, are we respecting the choices of others? And so I can look where I'm doing that and where I'm not doing that. Because whatever's happening inside of me, inside of you, and inside of us as individuals, that is telling us, that is showing us what is happening in our external world, right? So if I'm not respecting others, if I'm not respecting myself, then that's going to show up, right? Like I can't not respect myself and pretend to respect others. Like it always shows. At some point along the line, it's going to be evident. So it's really important that we're tracking ourselves in addition to looking at what's in our environment, which also helps us track ourselves. So we need to know, what is it that I'm respecting? How come I'm respecting this tradition? How come I'm cutting the ends off of the ham? Or how come I am, looking at these different roles that are really don't suit me, or that don't fit me, or that aren't really who I am? And can I come out of being overly role identified, and being in a role that someone else has told me I'm supposed to be in? Right. So it's what's important is that we're able to have our own identities emerge in the way that works for us each as individuals. And then when you have a whole container of wondrous, expressive individuals, you have a voice that is unity, a voice that is about unity and an expression of harmony for everyone. And I'm not saying that everybody agrees about everything, but what I'm saying is, I'm saying that these things are negotiable. These things are things that we can negotiate and figure out together. And so there are traditions we want to keep, and that it's very, very important that we preserve. But we always want to be asking ourselves about that. We want to be asking ourselves, like, oh, is this a tradition? Or is this something that really, that really does need changing? Is this something we need to look at and change? Or is this something that is really special or really sacred? So when I think about certain things, I think about songs, or I think about, different traditions that are so ancient, but that also need to be taken care of, need to be cared for and held and attended to. And so everyone needs to make choices about how those things are attended and how they are preserved. But every voice is needed: the male, the female, the non binary. All of those voices are needed in any container to make sure that what is happening is truly for the good of all. So I think about this choice factor, that everyone wants to have a choice. And I think about, how do we stand strong in our choices, and how do we, support one another, and how do we change those traditions, and how do we make sure that other people, that we're not making choices for others and others are not making choices for us, and that we're really able to listen and to have different perspectives and different views, and to share our different perspectives and gather different perspectives and views, but really a place where we're able to guide and help and heal and cherish and instruct one another, about what's good for us as an individual that could really serve the greater good of the collective, and the evolution of the collective in directions that are more positive and beneficial for everyone. So I think about that. So in my explorations and in my thoughts about this, I was also thinking about, what do we turn away from, or what do we not want to pay attention to, or what do we, kind of consciously neglect? and how can we stop neglecting and start affecting? What are the ways, what are the gifts and the talents, what are the things that I carry that can affect circumstances and turn things in a more positive direction? Do I feel that my choices are respected by those around me? And how can I cultivate respect instead of neglect in myself and in others, in myself, in my relationships with one other, and in my community, but also in my global community? It's very important that we're not being um, uh, neglectful. I mean, we can be afraid, but we also have to be courageous in sharing our voice and in standing for what is good and true and lasting. And so, to close, I just wanted to say the blessing way. And the blessing way is also called St. Patrick's breastplate. But this is something you see repeated in many different cultures around having something above and below and within and to the left and to the right and all around us that takes care of us. And that is one of the ways that we can stay in our wisdom and in our power, is to really call on a source of strength and love and grace, whether that is nature, whether that is, the creator or the Buddha or the great mystery or Allah or God or Elohim or, the angels, whatever that is for us, we can call on that divine power and we can ask that divine power to send us a little message, a little messenger to our heart. And in that messenger to our heart, we might hear a word or feel an experience or a feeling where it's, oh, today the feeling is love, or today the feeling is power, or today the feeling is empowerment, or today the feeling is instruction, or today the feeling is divinity. And what you do is you take that and you can literally place that around you, just even think it around you. And you can say, oh, I place this love in front of me, and I place this love behind me, and I place it above me and below me, and to the left of me and to the right of me and within me and all around me. And then you can carry that with you throughout the day and move from that place of deep authenticity in each day. And so I hope that that is helpful, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that, and how we can continue to build courage and strength, and how uh, male, female, or non-binary, everyone wants a choice. Have a great day.